Hey everybody, and welcome to day 29 of 31 and 31. And today's movie, excuse me, is Terror or Cemetery of Terror. Now, I saw this movie on Tubi, and it's from Mexico, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this before. It's from 1985. It's interesting. The synopsis sounds pretty good. And I started watching it, and about 25 minutes into it, I'm like, wait a second. I've seen this before. I know I've seen this before. And that's because good old Alex with Beyond the Void invited me to be on the Beyond the Void horror podcast back in 2019, and this is one of the movies that we watched. I totally forgot. Totally forgot that I had seen this before, and I started remembering things slowly but surely as we watched the movie. So if you want a really in-depth talk and conversation about this movie, about specific scenes, go back and listen to that podcast. There was a lot of fun talking about it, and I had a lot of fun talking with Alex about this. I think both movies we did, it was over like 2.5 hours that we kept talking. I could have talked for another half an hour, but it was getting really late for both of us. But this movie's interesting. It's really, really interesting because it's kind of two movies in one. And the first half of the movie is kind of like Night of the Demons. And I feel like Night of the Demons, which was in 88 or 89, got a lot of its like pull from this movie, especially after watching it a second time and kind of understanding where things were going. The basic premise of this movie is that there is this guy, this criminal that dies, and it's the very beginning of the movie where he gets shot down by the police. And he's a Satanist. We're going back to Satan again. And he has this like black book, this evil book in his house, and these six, I guess, college students. Three of them are like medical students. The other three are their girlfriends or their playthings or whatever you want to call them. And they go to the house. Magically, it happens to be the house. It's supposed to be going to a rock party, but they don't go to a rock party. Oh no! This happens to be Devlin's house, the criminal from the beginning of the movie. And so they decide to, when they find the book, and they find out the book can raise the dead, let's go to our job or our school, steal a corpse, and then use the book to raise the dead. And of course, terror ensues. Now, I say it's two movies because there are half of it. The other half is a bunch of kids that are going on the night for Halloween, but they're going to go to the cemetery, and they're going to do something in the cemetery. Devlin's house just happens to be in the middle of the cemetery or towards the end of it or wherever it is. And, of course, they end up at the house, too, after things have ensued. And really, their story is just like a little bit in the beginning. There is a funny scene where they just jump in a random van. I remember us talking about that as well. And, then they go off. And then we spend a good 35 minutes. So it takes about 30 minutes to set up everything. And then 35 minutes-ish of dealing with the young kids. And then, not the young kids, the whatever college-age students they are. And then the last is dealing with the kids, right? And going through that and them going through Boo Haunted House. So, it's interesting because it goes through these two. And the first part is actually a lot more interesting with the college students and raising the dead and stuff like that. Way more interesting than when it gets to the young kids. Like, that part, while it has good scares and it's got some good moments, it really feels disjointed to the rest of the movie. And so, while I enjoy the movie overall, because it's silly, this is like one of those so bad it's good movies, and it definitely shows its age, the first half has some actually pretty cool kills, and it has some really good scares, and then the second half, just because they're not going to kill the kids, right? I mean, you can kind of guess that based upon how the movie's going and everything like that. So I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything. But because they're not going to do it, they have to do more like, running away scares and stuff like that. So it's very just kind of generic when it gets to that part. I like the zombies that show up. That's a lot of fun. But just in general, like, it just kind of, I feel like it loses itself. And if it had just kept with the college kids and kept them throughout the movie doing whatever they're doing, and they're the ones to survive and everything like that, you could throw in the thing with the cop and the guy that wants to burn his body because they're like, you don't understand, he's a Satanist and he's made pacts with the devil, and so you need to burn him. And like, if they brought that, I never get, like, even with both watches, like, I don't really get why we have to have the kids in the whole thing. It just doesn't make any sense. And that's the only thing that kind of ruins the movie for me from like being like just a perfectly good, cheesy horror movie from the 80s that, you know, has some explicit gore and just, you know, it's what it is. It's a slasher and it's fun. It's a zombie slasher. Like I said, if we just kept that and just kind of built the tension a little bit, focused on them, and then you'd have a pretty cool, like, you know, pre-Night of the Demons, Night of the Demons, right? Because that's kind of the same plot, to be honest with you, at least for that portion of the movie. So, you know, I can't really do any higher than like a 3 out of 5 black books for this one. While it's fun, it's entertaining, but because it becomes so disjointed, it kind of just makes it an average movie, right? And like I said, I like everything in the first 2/3 of the movie, and it just feels like the last third is there to pad everything together to make it an hour and a half, and we're going to go through this. Or like they had an idea and they shot a bunch of stuff, it didn't really work, and so they just decided to combine the two movies together. So, I don't know, maybe that's just, I'm just overthinking everything. So, thank you guys for watching. We have got 2 movies left. We've got October 30th, the night before Halloween. What could we be watching for that night? And then, what are we watching for Halloween itself? Well, you'll have to wait and see. And we'll catch you next time. All right. Bye, guys.